going on, everyone? Welcome back to our Succession discussions. We are discussing episode 8, which was titled America Decides. Did that happen in tonight's episode? I don't think so, because it feels like Rome and Ken decided who is going to be the next president in this succession world, and that is Macon. Now, will it blow up in their face? I think it will. But speaking of blowing up in the face, Shiv and Tom round, 5-10? I don't know how many rounds they've had at each other this season, but I definitely know it was an explosive one. And finally, after weeks of wondering when she's going to tell Tom about that baby, the news was dropped tonight. We will be talking about our couple in tonight's episode. We also will be talking about Ken. Is he a good man? Is he a good father? Does he trust his sister moving forward? Because something comes out of the closet in regards to a relationship between Siobhan and Lucas. We will be discussing that. And Connor, doing Connor things. He's going to have his little whole situation. The con heads will rise. But we will have so much to go over. I'm so excited to be with you all. For those watching the breakdown, somewhere in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will be having a special guest that will be joining us. So if he just pops up on screen, don't be surprised by that in the breakdown. But before we get into it, thank you for watching the video. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed the episode, if you're enjoying the conversation, hit the thumbs up, share this discussion, leave your thoughts in the comments on tonight's episode, and consider subscribing to the channel. We talk Succession, Barry, and everything in between with movies and shows that we love, so definitely consider subscribing to the channel. So first and foremost, we open the episode post-Logan election. Tom is here and he is feeling the pressure, man. We know my man didn't get much sleep in last week's episode, and being deprived from sleep is a continuation in this episode. But again, Greg and Tom, their banter, their relationship, as we'll talk about, a little bumping action they have a little bit later in the episode. But see, Ken puts the pressure on Tom to bring in the numbers, to make sure this is one of the most televised elections of all time. Because again, we know Ken is all about the numbers, but also the legacy part of it all. He wants to take on the mantle. He wants to take on this company, Waystar, and he wants this to be the biggest election because he wants to be better than his father, as we all know. So we see the war room get it all set up. We see Greg fills Tom in about his fun night. I wish we would have saw that, if I'm being honest with you all, the night that Lucas and his second in command and Greg, I wonder what kind of night they had. Definitely with some drugs involved and some bickering, some talking going on. As we see, Greg is talking to Tom, and he lets him know that as he was having this fun night with the boys, he found out a little juicy information. And that information was, as Tom already knew this, but he's playing coy, obviously, that Siobhan and Lucas are working together. And Tom gives him some pretty good advice, and that is, if you have information, keep it like fine wine. Store that information and use it to your advantage. Something inside in my mind with the Greg character. Of course, he brings the laughs. He's just a funny individual. All these little tidbits and these little moments that he has with Tom, something's going to happen with him. I don't know. Is it a matter of taking over ATN and screwing over the Roy kids? Something of that nature. There's something big that's going to happen with Greg. I just see it come. They're just brewing it up. They're setting it all up. We know he knows a lot, and he's kept some things to his pocket. So I am very much keeping my eye on Greg having some type of explosive scene, reveal, let it all. Maybe he's writing a memoir and he's going to put it out online and just spill all the beans. But I'm telling y'all, man, Greg is someone to keep an eye out, and that is someone that I would be scared of if I'm there, because they're underestimating him, right? He's on this side, he's on that side. He's talking to Shiv at one point, which we'll talk about that moment. He's talking to Ken. He's working for Roman. He's working for Tom. Let's keep an eye on Greg, ladies and gentlemen. But things that we talked about last week, Reva's coming up. She's 2 weeks in a row. We haven't seen her since last season, but she has a call with Ken very early on in this episode. She tells him that, she's a little fearful. We know last week her daughter was pushed based on kids not liking the fact that her dad works for ATN and maybe positioning Macon to be the next president. So things are kind of heightened right now. And as far as the mother is concerned, she's afraid for her and her daughter's well-being. So she calls Ken, lets him know there's an SUV following them, and he lets them know that it's him, keeping tabs on them, make sure they're all right. Something's going to happen with that, as far as the Reva of it all and Ken kids of it all, because I don't want to say it's random, but the placement of it seems it doesn't seem like it's a coincidence. I think that, and I hope it's nothing like dark. I hope nothing happens to his kids. I hope nothing happens to Reva, but I think in a sense of disruption in the family connection between Ken and his kids and his legacy that he's created, Something's going to happen with that, because it wouldn't just be, again, just throwaway. They're fearful of their lives, and Macon being the president. I think something's going to happen with that. And again, I hope nothing bad happens to them physically, but I think it might go to those lengths, because there's no reason they would just kind of pop up out of nowhere. As that's going on, we have Rome having his face-to-face with his boy Macon, and the conversation that's pretty much at hand, and it's a very, political conversation. He's going to win at the end of the day. Even if he's not the president, he's going to be the president, aka whether, him running again for president in 4 years, he's going to be in a good position with ATN, with Roman being there, because they're boys. They're going to work for each other. So he's, again, Roman he doesn't care. Like I mentioned before we went to this breakdown with the live audience, Roman just wants the power. He doesn't care who's in the president chair, because ultimately they're a puppet for them, because they control the media, they control the outlets, they control the narrative. So that relationship between Rome and Macon is something to keep an eye out for, because on the outskirts, Ken sees this relationship, because earlier, before that scene happened, can I get on the phone with him? No, he just wants to talk to me. And Ken mentions that later in the episode, that he's jealous about that relationship, because again, this is a power play. Ken, for the last few weeks, and y'all know that's my favorite character, he's been on his high horse. He's been in this good position of power, and just, he's the wave, as he says last week. But that wave has been pushed back, because his little brother is now he's playing with the big fish. He's playing with the big boys. He controls who's going to be the president. So the back and forth, the tug and pull between the two brothers was definitely something that intrigued me in tonight's episode. But the first half of this episode, what was so well handled to me was the writing of it all, of how they handled not just who's going to be the president, but the implications of aligning these characters with what's going to be best for their pockets, what's going to be best for their, businesses and their future and things of that nature. And I think the reality of it all, of the situation, it mirrors our reality in tonight's episode for sure. And again, not to offend anyone out there, but this definitely felt like 2016 all over again in tonight's episode. And that's what was the shocking part to me, is just how well this show is able to blend in the reality, mixing in the show's narrative with these characters and the power moves they make. And it was just so, again, from someone that's not a person that's into politics, it was just so riveting. I can't even explain how I was just sitting on the edge of my seat, just watching all these moves, these power moves, these chess moves, and the whole thing with Milwaukee and ending the polls and calling it, all this stuff to me was just very fascinating. Again, as Roman said, we made some good TV tonight, and that they definitely did. In tonight's episode, we see Tom, needs a little extra motivation. He doesn't get his coffee. We know he's sleep deprived, but let's just say he has a little bump, to say the least. And Greg, the whole Greg of it all, he doesn't want to do this bump with him, because he doesn't want to get so many funny moments in this episode. He doesn't want to get addicted, because he did some extra activities with Lucas the night before. But again, this seeing them going back and forth, and Greg is still being his little Greg, as he mentions in this episode, is just something I definitely got a good laugh out of. The thing I do want to point out again is this is another tally mark, another thing to put in the documents, another thing to stay in the memory bank for Greg, is the head of ATN took a substance on the night of the election. So again, if my, I don't want to say theory, but if my thoughts are to come true regarding Greg using all the information he's obtained over the last years, this is not a good look for the head of ATN, that he was possibly, the headline can read, he was on drugs on the night of the election. So we'll see if Greg will use this to his advantage some way, somehow, before the end of the show. But we're about 15, 20 minutes in, and the polls are now being closed, and things aren't looking good for our boy Connor. He's kind of waving the white flag at this point. We're hearing that things are getting violent in different places across the country. And again, Tom is just like a chicken with his head cut off. There's an issue with the touchscreen not working. Again, there's violence going on. He's getting called to put this on the headlines, run this story for the minute. It's, again, if I was in his position, I wouldn't have been able to make it in tonight's episode. I just would have been like, you know what? Take off my shirt and tie. You guys have a good time tonight. Deuces, I am out of here. That's a lot of pressure, man. But Shiv and Ken want Tom to focus on the bombing situation that was kind of ignored from Tom and all the people of power and ATN. They were kind of like, there's nothing to worry about. But boy, that ended up being something very serious. Right now, it's like, okay, what's the narrative? And this is where Macon gets Rome involved, that the narrative is that we should call it because there's been some things interfered with in the election tonight. So again, a small thing became something very pivotal, as we'll get into here. But while all that is happening, again, the show still finds a way to bring in the relationship side of it, the human side of it, the personal relationship side of it. And there's nothing more personal than the relationship between Shiv and Tom, because in the last few weeks, it's been a roller coaster. They were getting a divorce. They're kicking each other's shoes, pulling each other's earlobes. They're taking digs at each other. Last week was pretty damn explosive. Some stuff I didn't think they want to come back from, and it doesn't appear that they are. But we have this scene here that kind of caught me by surprise, because I didn't imagine Shiv to be she's the bigger person situation. She pulls, while all this craziness is going on, she pulls Tom aside and she attempts, well, I don't want to say attempt, she does say sorry, but it's a sorry that comes with a caveat. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, I want to pull you aside to see if you're sorry as well. So there was some alternative motives for Shiv there. But this is the moment I've been waiting for. I think a lot of you all have been waiting for. We all know from episode 3, Siobhan is pregnant. But the question that I was wondering, okay, listen, is it Tom's? There's a lot of stuff going on with Siobhan right now. Is the baby okay? A lot of things being questioned, but the thing is, when will she tell Tom? Even when they were on the same page for the beginning of last week's episode, with him giving her breakfast, the week before that, trying to figure it out. We're going to be miserable together, but hey, let's just have fun while we're being miserable. But she finally lets the cat out of the bag. But before she does, she's looking for Tom again. I think Siobhan has been waiting for Tom to get back in line. She's been waiting for him to do what he did the previous 3 seasons, which was when Siobhan says jump, Tom says, how high, dear? When Siobhan tell him to do something, sure, when do you need me to do it? He was on the ball. But obviously in the last few episodes, and particularly in this season, Tom hasn't been playing ball. He hasn't been, doing the orders that he has been the past 3 years. So he doesn't give the apology, but then he's just like, you know what? I don't really care. I got a lot on my plate right now. And it's not giving the Siobhan the energy she wants from this conversation. And he doesn't just stop there. My man Tom proceeds to say, Siobhan, you hated your dad. Siobhan, no, I didn't hate my dad. Siobhan, you probably had something, you sort of killed your dad with all the stuff you and your siblings were doing. And she's just flabbergasted. She has no words. She's in a loss for words. But now words are going to be completely forgotten about, because now she finally tells him after he's just, again, Tom is just laying it in on her. He's really, and again, this is something that I think the character has been leading up to this kind of like blasé, like kind of attitude towards Siobhan. Like, man, you have drugged me through the trenches and I've just had enough of it. I'm finally going to stand up for myself. So he tells her all that stuff. So now Siobhan is just like, I don't know, okay, what do I have? What do I have? What can I play against him? What can I use over him? What can I say to him to kind of break him down? What can I say to get back into this conversation? Finally tells him that she's pregnant. And not only that he is the father. Shout out to Maury. Tom is the father. And the moment, first words this man says to his wife and mother to be is is what you said even true? Oh, that can be taken in 2 ways, right? It can be taken as what you're saying to be true is like, is the baby really mine? And this other way that I think he might have meant it was, and he says so much so in this next moment, he says, is this a tactic, right? Is this just you being Siobhan, you being a Roy member and just saying something to be what works to your advantage, that holds something over me? And Siobhan has no words. She walks away, and we'll talk about the scene here. But again, I'm a Siobhan fan, but I don't blame Tom with that response, because it is Siobhan that we're talking about. It is a member of the Roy family that we're talking about, and deceit and lies and trickery and tactics, no matter what the topic is, birth, life or death situation, you never know what's going to come out of their mouth, and you don't know if it's truthful. So I would be stunned if I was Siobhan, no doubt, but I don't want to put the pressure on Tom saying, you're despicable, you're terrible. I mean, they're all terrible characters. Let's just put that out there. But I don't blame his response. But I want to know how you all felt about that scene. Number one, the reveal finally happened. She tells him she's pregnant. He is the father of the child. And his first words to her was, is the words that are coming out of your mouth, is it truthful? Whose side were you on that moment? Did you feel for Siobhan? Did you feel for Tom? I felt for Tom in the sense of, that's probably something that I would have personally said as well, because again, you don't know what is truthful with these characters. He's coming in at a very perfect time as we're talking about Siobhan and Ken. You all have gotten to know him in the last 2 weeks, and he's here to join us again. It's the one and only 9 from 9 Nerd Yards.
Hey, sorry I'm late. Sorry for the false
flag.
Good,
man? It was the touchschucreen, right? Some touchscreen issues.
Yeah, touchscreen issues. I was talking to the other con heads about what our next move was going to be.
Definitely,
wow, man. What an episode. I literally just got done watching it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've already 45 minutes in. Yeah.
And I said it earlier, man. I don't know if you feel the same sentiments, but this was 2016 all over again, man. It was very
I feel like it was like 2016 but mixed with that splash of 2020, right?
I agree, man.
And coming off the heels of Fox News being having to pay a Billy because of very much this type of situation. Wow, like how appropriate for the zeitgeist. And I think this is going to go down as one of the best episodes of the series. Possibly.
But in this conversation, did you feel bad? If there was a character you felt bad for that moment, were you more on Tom's side, understanding his perspective of the situation? Did you feel bad for Siobhan that the first thing you said to your husband was, I'm pregnant, and his response was, is it true? Is this a tactic of yours?
I mean, she painted herself to get that response, right? Like, there is no way after that, Romeo and Juliet balcony scene that we got last week that Tom will be in a position to actually trust what she's doing or what she's saying. It's just a toxic situation where it makes sense where Tom would be like, yeah, what type of game are you playing here? And either way, there's no way I can even think about this right now. I felt like it was a little bit slimy for Shiv to drop that because it felt like she was only saying it right now to get what she wants, to make sure her behind is covered. Teeing it up for like last episode, I was teeing up like, Shiv is not really getting any allegiances here. She's burning all of our bridges. It's going to be very hard for her to be on a standpoint with anybody in her corner.
This brother and sister, the sibling relationship is just so fascinating to me, Nine, because they have these moments, as we'll talk about, where all their chips are on the table, that Siobhan's working with Lucas. There are still these moments when they can punch each other, kick each other, spit on each other, but then they have these quieter moments when she goes back to her brothers and, oh, you okay? You just talk to Tom. You want us to kill him? And then maybe.
Right, yeah.
And Kendall looks at her and says, we got you. It's those little moments that there's a sliver of hope that they actually like each other, that they actually care about each other. But then later in the episode, they're just back to killing each other and stabbing each other in the back, man. The relationship, it is true to brothers and sisters. I mean, you can love them one day, hate them the next day. Right. Your thoughts on just this dynamic of this relationship with the Roy family?
All holding a knife, right? And I really love like how she thought that Greg didn't have the knife either, right? Oh, boy. What a way to grow up. I want chicken, you want steak, right? And you're going to be holding on to that for life. You know what I mean? Like when you're dealing with that type
you
of
use
family,
that small little child interaction and use it as like a stepping stool of like a fundamental thing that you think of as an adult.
Right, exactly. And they're going to be it almost feels fitting for it to be coming to an end, because like, how do we even move forward from all of this?
Let's talk about Connor for a bit, who has some interesting moments. He realizes that the ship has sailed. His little pipe dream of being the president, 100 milli on the table for his promotions is not looking good. Little bro up. Hey man, is some Molly still on the
table? Your rhymes are compelling, but
you're right. Yeah, he was definitely banging on the door to try to get back into the club. But your thoughts on Connor in this episode, because it wasn't a ton of stuff going on. He does have a moment, and I guess since we're on Connor, his moment in this episode was he folds over, gonna go with Mencken. And he goes on camera, 9, and pretty much just says some things that I don't think you want to put out there as someone in his position. He uses his money as a ploy. He mentions the con heads and just, obviously endorses Mencken. But your thoughts on Connor, and I guess moving forward, and we know next week will be the funeral episode, but anything else on the table? Is there anything else to squeeze out of Connor for the rest of this season that you might have gotten from tonight's episode, and just your opinions on him and his movement in this episode?
I think we will be seeing some pretty good dialogue from Connor moving forward, because he kind of like turned heel a little bit this episode for, just getting also whatever he wants to get out of the situation. He's still trying to squeeze, right?
Yeah.
And I think that has something to say regarding how the family has treated the whole funeral situation, how they handled
whenever there's a party or a family function and he has any hints of being involved in it, it's going to be a mess. So yeah, he definitely will probably have a moment to shine next week.
And he spearheaded that whole thing, right? So he definitely has something to say with how everyone handled the family dynamics while he was dealing with the funeral proceedings and everything.
Historically, Wisconsin votes Democrats, but there was this bombing and people are blaming it on Mencken because his numbers weren't looking good because the other candidate was looking to be taking over the electoral votes. So Rome and Shiv are literally at each other's throats, and more so Rome is being more childish in the moment than Shiv. She's trying to have an actual adult conversation, but Rome is just kind of playing her in this scene here. But within this moment here, I'm just curious now to how you felt about the whole, more so Roman in this episode, and then particularly in this scene, how the focus, the Roman didn't care who was the president. He just wants to make sure that he's going to be fine. He's going to be in control. And he has his Mencken horse in the stables. And we had a scene earlier where Mencken's like, "Hey, win or lose, I'm going to still win, and we're going to be working together. ATN has my back," and he agrees to that. So not only in this scene when he's going that Shiv 9, but your thoughts on just Roman and his navigating of this episode and how the last few weeks he's been kind of taking a back seat. He took full control in tonight's episode.
He really did. And first and foremost, Roman is a bad guy. He is pretty.
He don't care about nobody.
It's kind of funny because we were just seeing Kendall come off the high of given that stock presentation a couple of episodes ago, and everyone's patting him on the back. It feels like Kendall is more in control of the business. But even Kendall is admitting that, okay, if we do push Mencken and Roman are like this, then
jealousy.
how am I even going to really have any pull? If it's almost like Roman is vice president right now, you know what I'm saying? He might as well be the running mate. So yeah, so I kind of think that but I also think Roman is a bit too over his head on this, basing this off of history, or real life events. Then ATN is big over their head too, and we may be seeing crumbling empire.
We have this point where Ravenhead, we met him in season 2. He's a hothead. He says he's a Mencken supporter. He says some pretty outrageous things to bring in the numbers, but this is again the power of Rome in the situation. He feeds this over to Ravenhead to spew, as they say, poison to the audience, to their people watching the program, of that, things weren't looking good. So of course it's the other side that had this situation at Wisconsin and everything going on. It just goes to show you, 9, as far as when Rome really is focused, he can F some stuff up, man. The move that he makes here, now I don't know if you had any thoughts on it, man, of him just going to the live commentator and having Ravenhead just spew all this poison out there with this whole fire situation in Milwaukee was just a power move.
It was pretty crazy. Have his own mask off moment, just the way that he was just talking into the camera and everything. But yeah, Rome knows how to shift things around. This is when he is most like his father. And every week that's what he craves, right? He wants to be just like his dad. Not really sure if he can capture that all the time moving forward. My belief is that even if he's like Menken's boy, he will still be playing second fiddle to Menken, or
100%.
like being manipulated. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
can. They're all everyone right now that's latched on to someone that they think they have their corner on their side is going to be played. Whether that's
Mhm.
Shiv and Lucas, Rome and Mencken. Ken doesn't really have a dog, I guess, to rely on or someone to lean on. Maybe Frank, but I don't think Frank's going to betray him. But everyone else that thinks they're in cahoots with someone, I think that it's going to blow up in their face.
Mhm.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays up. But the moment here, I think it bit Siobhan in the ass that she thought she was going to intimidate Mr. Greg. She warns him,
Mhm.
or I should say, threatens him. First off, she says, "Do you find me attractive?" Because she knows all about the disgusting brothers, right? She tells him that she will kill him if she finds out that she's feeding information over to Tom, to Ken, to Rome, because obviously she's very aware that the night before Lucas and Greg were hanging out, and she threatens to pull all his insides out from the back end. And Greg keeps that in his memory bank and uses it on her a little bit later. So my question for you, Nine, is: was this a bad move to try to intimidate Tom or to intimidate Greg from Shiv's perspective?
Yeah, I think from Shiv's perspective, she sees Greg still like season one Greg, right? She
Yeah,
doesn't know that he
true
already
perspective.
sold his soul, right?
Exactly.
He's all in on it.
Yes.
He is a disgusting brother now, so
Yeah, quote
you're going to
unquote.
have to play it a bit easier than
Yeah.
that. And if you're not offering anything, which I thought was kind of magnificent from Greg's part, because he's like a bit more timid, but he knows how to play the game. He's like,
Mhm.
okay, I understand what you're saying, but like, what really is it? Like, what do you got for me?
Exactly. That's the
How
point.
golden is this thing?
She didn't cut a deal with him, man. That's her first
Hmm.
mistake. She didn't come at him with like everyone else has. She didn't
Hmm.
bring the goods. I totally agree
And
with you, Nine.
Greg's got a lot more things to his disposal now. Like probably the most solid partnership that the show has ever had is with Tom and Greg. So
Mhm.
really doing that to Greg was
Not a good move.
such a big mistake. She misread that situation so
Yep.
hard.
Yeah, I'm sure it's so many great moments. I think there was a part, I'm sure that they've had moments together. I want to retract my comments of them not having. There's moments where I can recollect her talking to Greg, and like you just mentioned, her kind of sunning him and telling she thinks she has all the power, but really he's just, sure, Shiv, I'll do whatever you do, and probably just listen to Logan or Tom. There have been moments, but she's underestimated Greg every step of the way. And like you said, Nine, he's not the same Greg that he was from season one. That's
Mhm.
for sure. So she definitely came at him wrong from not offering something to him. And I think I can confidently say that I don't think I've seen a funnier scene in Succession than the one we're going to talk about here. Wasabi and LaCroix. It's not a good mix, I tell you, Nine. To describe the scene, first we had Ken and Rome talking about if Mencken isn't elected, he will end the deal. Rome puts his foot down, and then we go into the scene where Rome comes into the room and they're trying to get, I believe the character name was Darwin, to get on screen to let them know that they're going to call it that this whole Wisconsin thing. In this scene, my man, thanks to that bodega sushi, he gets
Yeah.
some sauce in the
Check off
eyes.
shoe sushi.
He pours LaCroix in his eyes. Nine, I don't know if there was a funnier scene than this here, man. Again, we're going to get into the serious stuff here in a second, but I just had to take a moment to get your thoughts on one of the funniest, if not the funniest scene that I've seen in the show.
Hilarious. Yeah, I was laughing at that. And it's so like Three Stooges meets Kafka is about to be like addressing the nation and like
Yes.
really putting some hard line borders, trying to contain this situation. And what stops it all is gas station sushi. Wasabi in the eye, and
It's
Greg just
medical. It's limited.
right.
It's not that limit. Oh my goodness, man.
Right. I was half expecting him to just grab a salt shaker and just, dousing
Just
that
add
into his
more
eyes
fuel
too.
to
It's
the
like,
fire,
okay,
man. Oh my
all
goodness.
right. That was that was just like a really great bit of levity, because
Yeah.
this episode was very intense and
Pretty heavy. Yeah,
had
man.
me on the
Yeah.
edge of my seat, and I wasn't
Hey,
expecting
man.
it to get that silly.
Yeah. Greg's around. It's definitely gonna get silly, my man. Oh, a serious moment. So funny moments, serious moment. I want to get your thoughts, Nine, on the kin of it all in this episode. I mentioned earlier the scene when he's talking to Reva about, he has the SUV following them, and he thinks and we'll talk about the scene with him and Shiv. Is he a good guy? Is he a good parent? But we see it in his face now. He's not comfortable with the decision of Rome taking control, and more particularly, Mencken taking control of the country. He's really, really torn on this decision, Nine. So I'm just curious on how you felt that Ken navigated through this episode. The fear, did he really care about his daughter being harmed and his family being in harm's way? Was it just he didn't feel like he was in control of the situation, so it kind of threw him off? Psychologically, what do you think Ken was throughout this episode?
Well, I think it's pretty. It's a beautiful scene, right? Like that dynamic is really interesting to me, and I wish we would have seen more of this throughout the series, because I can imagine, maybe this is what Logan used to have in his past, like that conflict, because essentially
this isn't the right thing. Just know this isn't the right thing.
He just picked the business over his kids.
Yep.
He had his kid on his mind that whole time. One of these guys pushed my daughter, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be advocating for just more people of those people that have power.
That type of behavior is okay.
And that type of behavior.
Yeah.
So, but do I pick what's good for my kids or countless other kids, or do I, go that business route? So I can imagine that his dad, Logan, made that same decision, once upon a time to Kendall and his kids.
Good point. Yeah, Jeremy Strong, man, just brings this. Again, there's no good person in this show. There's no good guys, no good women. They're all despicable. But the way that they're able to play on that sympathy card, and then particularly going back to Jeremy Strong, you can see the ball rolling. You can see the kind of the sympathy card being played with him wanting to do the right thing, but not having the goal, not having the motivation to make the right decision. Because ultimately, as we'll talk about later, he decided to go to his brother because it was in spite of Shiv. Right. It wasn't necessarily probably the best decision, but he did that in order to get back at her. So it's just these characters, man, decisions they make. This
family drama just completely shifted the whole course of American democracy, and that's pretty crazy to see.
That he doesn't feel comfortable with this, and the back and forth and the conversation they had was just something that was nothing short of amazing in my eyes. But we see this other kind of side conversation, a sidebar 9 between Ken and Shiv, and it's a heart to heart. I think from Ken's eyes, he thinks that he's being honest, being transparent with his sister, and she's just sitting there she's just feeding into it, yeah, I agree. You're a good man. You're a good father. You all we can do is try. 9, I wanted to go on the TV and just yell at Ken, she's lying, bro.
Right.
She's not really, being genuine, man. It was, how did you feel about that scene? Kind of, again, it's a rare moment for any of them to be honest with each other. But this just goes to show you that even Siobhan, man, how she's just so conniving and just so manipulative that her brother's spilling his heart out right now, 9, and she's just like,
I think I think what actually got him, all twisted, completely 100 now. We're going to take this time to actually be serious. We're not going to be digging at each. I'm actually going to tell you something. It's not going to be just a bunch of empty words right now. Yeah. And during that time, it's that expectation that everyone else is going to be on board and being also. It's not a time that we're going to be using any of this against one another, right?
Right.
And that is almost worse, because if in another setting, right, if she just kind of was playing them, backlaying them the whole time without that moment, though, it just added on so much to where he's like, okay, I'm going to be I'm off the wall now. I'm out of control because you went against that sacred bond. The few times as a family that we can come together and we can be open, you went against that.
It's a sad thing, man, because again, you just know that when they are on the same page, things tend to work out for the betterment. They tend to make good decisions, even though individually they don't make the best decisions. But it was kind of from as a Ken fan, I felt bad for him because he was, giving her the honest truth, and it puts a fear in my heart as a Ken fan. And we'll talk about Shiv calling Manson at the end and be like, we're going to screw them over. And she knows about the waiter situation that happened in season 1 about the waiter dying.
Everything
that can blow up in his, and obviously to Ken, that can destroy everything, man. So I don't know if Shiv's going to get that deep. She's going to cut that deep. She's going to go that far because she was, I mean, she's complicit. She knew about it in last season. So I don't know like how much weight that holds in the court of law. Like, you knew about this and you've been holding this for this long.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if she's going to go that low.
Burn everything down to the ground.
Because listen, I'm just to cut to this scene here, man. I was sipping the tea. I was here for the tea, and the eyes. We talk about it every week. Siobhan and those side eyes and that bombastic side eye. She sees Ken and like, I'm gonna call. No, you don't need to call. No, Ken, stay in here. I'm gonna call him and sort this out because she was playing coy. Like, what did he actually say?
Would have seen that coming.
She should have. She should have
not. Seen that coming because
she underestimated. She was underestimating a lot of people.
Right. Because like she's safe with Madison because Madison knows like what's up. Like they're agents with each other, right?
Yeah.
But Nate and the other dude, they aren't playing with Shiv, so that was a big risk for her to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fake pretend like I got them on the leash too. Nah, like you guys gotta be somewhat in cahoots with each other.
She took some L's tonight, bro.
She took an L with L's. I feel bad for her.
Tom, she took an L with Greg. She takes an L on the fake phone call, and the side eye man. She's looking at him. He's looking. I feel like it's an R. Kelly out of the closet. He's looking at her. She's looking at him. Like it was just the back and forth. And man,
this is the face. When you hear the door open and you didn't take the chicken out of the freezer.
Like, oh, you playing your game. You took the chicken out, right?
Right. Or you remember like 5 minutes before she gets home and then put it down. She's like,
game over.
This ain't. This is so frozen. Like.
Man, it all comes down to a moment that we knew was probably going to come, but not on the election night. But Ken, and by the way, I don't want to leave out going back to the scene that Shiv had with Greg. I wish I can find that. I'm going to try to find a screenshot as we're talking. Greg gives her an even better look when Siobhan's obviously looking at Greg and he looks back at her and he kind of like does a little shrug, like it happened so fast, but he smiles back at her, which is just like Greg's like,
I guess we'll see. Yeah.
I guess you won't be killing me anytime soon. All the chips are on the table. 9. Ken tells her he knows they were in cahoots. And seeing Shiv, and you guys, before I say this, you guys understand Sarah Snook is so phenomenal. She can be menacing, she can be conniving, she can be loving at times. But when she's trying to will it back in and seeing her kind of falling right in front of us, 9 was just something that was just the acting that she provides is just something just so spectacular to me, man. But she's just falling apart. She's trying to beg and just be like trying to make give her reasons why, right? That she had her options open and this, that, and the third. 9, man, let me know how you were feeling about this scene where she's trying to play it back and Rome against just like, yep, this is what I needed. This is the cards that I need. And he ultimately looks at his big brother. And I think for the first time, maybe ever, Ken's actually going to side with Roman. It's normally the other way around when Rome's like, yeah, Ken, I'll go to business with you. Yeah, Ken, I'll do this. The little brother always listens to the big brother, but now Ken is actually listening to Roman, which is something we rarely see. 9.
That's so difficult, right? Because in that moment, it's like, yeah, I understand where Ken's coming from, but like he isn't evaluating why. It was very convenient for him. He pieced that together. Ken had like a very clairvoyant moment there to be able to like get off that phone call and then be like, okay, what's next? I need to talk to Greg right now, right? Mm-hmm. And then Greg gives him that dial. So he's already got the plot all in his head, right?
Yeah.
And so as much as, if you muddy the water that much, then, no one's going to drink it. even if you're doing it for, somewhat beneficial or virtuous purposes, you already muddy the water so much that even people maybe even turn to muddier water because of how you did them. But if Ken wasn't really considering all of the reasons why she would have had that move,
would have made that move.
and the first thing he says is like, "I'm a good guy," right? So like already he's like
yes,
in his own character, right?
Yeah,
Because he's lying about everything else. She was lying about me being a good guy too. So I'm the bad guy. Guess what? I'm the bad guy now.
It all comes down. That's again going back to these characters, man. It all comes down to spite and hate and disagreements to make these decisions. Because 2 seconds ago, it was all about protecting my family, the safety of the country. But no, throw that outside. Throw my kids outside. Throw my family outside. I'm going to go with my brother Rome and go with Mencken in spite of you, Shiv, because you lied to me. Which is just crazy, man. And this scene was just, and again, I don't want to leave out Roman. He's just like making a call. Tom, go ahead and make it happen. And speaking of the time of it all, I don't know. I don't think they're not going back together. This is the end of the relationship, because in this moment, you would think your husband will have your side. But Tom's like, it's not my call. And he's just kind of like, all right, it's just he's ignoring Siobhan this whole time. And he's like, is this the call, guys? And Mankind's going to be the president, man. I guess, is there any moment, any part of you that feels somewhat bad for her in this moment? Because again, we know that when it becomes the conversation of, when it gets down to it, Siobhan doesn't get listened to from the brothers, throughout this entire show.
Bro.
Is there any of that in your mind? Is like, damn, man? Or is just like, hey, you made the bed and you sleep in it, Siobhan?
Oh, I mean, I did feel bad for her, because he was saying she was. They were saying she's hysterical. They were saying that
all
she
those
sounds
keywords that you do
unhinged.
not want to say to a
They
woman.
said that when Roman said that you're boring, like, ooh, that is tough, man. Like, I
She's
don't
the
know.
only woman in the room, man. Husband's not supporting her. Brother's not supporting her. She's made some terrible. She took some L's tonight, some major L's. But I got to admit, man, just from I guess just the human in me, I felt bad. I don't like when people get cornered and picked on. I guess that's the side of me.
That was tough,
yeah. But again, she made this bed now, and she has to sleep in it, man. They've all went against each other at one point in time, but she's literally in cahoots with the enemy, man, and it blows up in your face.
She was really going to cry, though.
I think she
It
was.
looked like
It
she
might have
was
been.
like
It
really
might have been a quick
crying.
tear
Like, I
that
was
we.
like, man,
Yeah, I think so,
I
man.
did feel bad. I did feel bad, because I was like, for what she was saying and like what she was actually standing up for. That's the tough thing, because obviously this main guy should not be good.
I mean,
that is actually the just truth of the matter is.
Yeah,
that he wouldn't be a good choice for their for that universe's president. But but again, it's like all that stuff you did is like, no one's going to be on your side here. You already took away all of your allies.
My boy Ken, who was supposed to be the new coming of Logan, he's back and forth, doesn't know up from down, left to right. These kids aren't ready, man. This show has shown us since episode 3, once once Logan died, that they are directionless. They don't have they don't know anything from anything without their dad being in that room. Before we wrap this up, 9, the scene I want to get your thoughts on, because I don't know if this is something to look forward to, the nuclear attack, as Jess says to Greg that this is the move they're going to make. It was almost like Jess. Do you think there was something going on here in regards to maybe Jess using this? Because obviously they gave Greg the move to hit the button, to call to make the move. Anything from this, or am I looking too much into this? Again, I think the whole thing is Greg's going to have something. They're going to do something with Greg before the show ends. But was there anything that you took away from this scene of like, why Jess, why then, the moment of him saying that he doesn't want to do it and he ultimately does it, kind of
did feel very like before the storm type of situation. It was interesting to have Jess be that
be the one.
and she kind of like Gamora after that Thanos snap or whatever is like, at what cost,
At what
Greg?
cost? Yeah,
What
that's a good point.
what are you
The
doing
nuclear
here?
attack. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I'm very, again, I know there's something that's going to be going down with Greg, but I'm just, I thought there was something more to this, because to your point, why Jess, why then, why now, why her? I'm very curious on what this scene could mean in our final 2 episodes. But we end the episode with officially Mencken wins the votes. He's the president, and of course everyone, like you mentioned, Nine, is kind of,
so ATN says I want to know like what happens after this episode, like how it kind of fizzles out,
the
because again,
ramifications.
there could be that whole thing. It's like, that day after, everyone else is saying no, it wasn't Mencken. All right, and now ATN is that disgrace.
As of right now, the president is Jared Mencken. As he wins the votes. And again, like you mentioned, Nine, there's a moment where you can tell everyone is uncomfortable with this. They know that, in particularly Ken and Siobhan, all of them know. Rome's the only one that's kind of like, it is what it is, because in the back of his mind, as his dad said many seasons ago, they don't care who's running who's in the chair. They know that they built the chair and they can control the president. So it really doesn't matter who would have won. But I think it's going to matter in this case, because I think the difference between Logan not caring who's the president is it's Logan. Ken, Rome, Siobhan aren't Logan. So as you mentioned earlier, Nye, I think Megan's going to run all over them and play them, and particularly play Rome, who he thinks is his boy. But we end this episode with him winning, and we have him giving this speech, which was just, man, it's scary, man. It's again, it was so 2016 kind of all over again. Like, what, this world is coming to an end. He says to them, as I have here, wisdom of the good people of the Republic, something clean and refreshing. And we see Roman saying, we got him. This is our boy. This is our stable. This is our horse in the stable, and we're going to control him. And the best line to me, Nine, was when Roman, again, this is the president, and he's playing it as if it was like picking a avatar for 2K or picking a video game character. It was just
right. You're in the fantasy draft.
Exactly.
League, and you just got
we
your
made
guy.
Good TV, and nothing matters. Nothing's gonna happen. And Siobhan says, no, something's gonna. It always happens. My man. And then of course Siobhan walks out, calls Luke, and says they're gonna take him down. And of course we know the funeral is coming next week. Nine, talk to me about these final scenes, man. Mencken's the president. Siobhan's gonna go with her brothers. Good TV.
Because I just got off the heels of finishing that, and we're just going to be waiting for the other shoe to drop, because something will be happening, Rome, and maybe it's Rome burning, right? Maybe it's the fall of the empire,
right?
That's coming up here, and it's so fascinating that next week is the funeral. Like, this whole season just taking part in a week or so is out of control. It's so crazy. It's so intense.
Yeah, this is episode 8, so we've been following them for the last 8 days, which is just so much has happened in these 8 days, man. So much, man. And again, I wish this trailers for this season. There's a shot that we have yet to see, and it's the shot that I mentioned a couple weeks ago. I thought it was going to happen tonight, because I thought all hell was going to break loose, and it still might happen in next week's episode. But there's a shot in the trailer where we see Roman in the middle of the streets in New York, and there's chaos going on. Now, I don't know if that chaos has anything to do with Mencken winning, and we're going to see the ramifications of that, or if someone actually mentioned in the comments that the whole Wisconsin thing, the results of how they called that and kind of did it illegally, that's going to come back to light, and people are going to cause chaos because they rigged the election. This is going to blow up, Nine. This is going to blow up in Rome's face and Ken's face, and of course Siobhan doing what she's going to try to do behind the scenes. Nine, it's not going to be good. It's not going to. This show will not end on a happy ever after for these characters.
ATN goes down for this, then that's going to be like half off whatever deal he is going to try to make, right?
Yeah, man.
Like he's going to be getting that on a discount.
Before we wrap it up, Nine, just general final thoughts on the episode, standout moments, standout characters, and just, I guess, again, going back to just the predictions of next week. What do you think we'll see as far as the funeral goes?
Kendall will say hello to his child, and and be a father for like 0.5 seconds. You're going to go all out. Like from the previews, this episode, Roman was wanting to do the speech about his father, right? He's going to be really juiced up for, getting this episode. He performed in this episode, getting that whole thing figured out. So I even though he's so despicable this episode, I would say Roman is the MVP just because how he played the whole room, he played the whole nation, and basically damn near became vice president with how he's linked up with Mencken. Right after his speech, he calling Rome's phone up. Like he's off the podium calling Rome's phone. I was like, yeah, he's got some pull right now. He may have been crowned a little bit of a king there.
I definitely think, and right now for all of those that are watching live, again, this is part of the breakdown. So join us live next week so you guys can be a part of the poll. But right now there's a poll in the chat, in the live chat. Who was tonight's MVP? I had put in the chat for Tom, Rome, Ken, and then just for fun, I put the sushi. But the sushi is more so Greg. Greg is the sushi substitute for those that are confused about what I meant by the sushi as a little joke. So, or anyone else, let me know in the chat. It could be Siobhan, it could be someone else. Let me know. But yeah, I'm with you, Nine. As far as just my MVP was Rome. I was not on his side in tonight's episode by any means, but I just thought that the way that he controlled the narrative, controlled the situation, as we've talked about, he's been kind of behind the 8 ball this entire season, and more so in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Ken's ascended. He had his moment to shine on stage. Shiv had her moment when she's like, I'm doing these deals. I got my ex-boyfriend coming to this party. I got my husband back. She was on a high. But Rome never had his moment to shine until tonight, because he controlled the narrative. His horse in the stable won the presidency. So tonight, Rome had his moment to shine. And again, I'm not condoning his actions. I just felt as though the performance, the power scale that he had was just amazing. So Rome was my MVP. But again, I want to know yours, and vote for us before we wrap it up. Let us know, and we'll reveal the poll, and it won't be rigged by any means. We'll see who you guys in the live chat MVP was. But now we're going to still be live, guys. Let us know in the chat how you guys felt about the episode. Pros, cons, thoughts, theories for the weeks ahead with the episode for the funeral. And make sure to like the video, share the video, and consider subscribing not only to my channel, but my man Nine's information is in the description of this breakdown. So definitely click on his channel. Watch all his video 20 times. Make sure to subscribe to his channel. And don't put wasabi and LaCroix in your eyes. It's not a good mixture, y'all. Be safe.